10 News is brought to you in high definition exclusively by Harper Auto Square. You are watching WBIR TV, Channel 10, Knoxville. The news starts now.
Coming up on 10 News today, Ferguson, Missouri in turmoil following a grand jury's decision not to indict police officer Darren Wilson. Meanwhile, the president makes a plea for peace.
I join Michael's parents in asking anyone who protests this decision to do so peacefully.
And new this morning, a house fire in East Knoxville left a child dead and a family displaced. A live report coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us for 10 News today, everyone. I'm Moira Kay.
And I'm Russell Biven. A lot of news to get to here locally and also nationally. In Ferguson, a grand jury has decided not to indict Officer Darren Wilson in the shooting death of Michael Brown. Jennifer Bjorklund has more.
Here in Ferguson, just a few blocks away from where Michael Brown was killed, chaos broke out overnight after word that there would be no indictment against Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson. Businesses torched, a police car ablaze. Looting and violence met with tear gas, punctuated by automatic gunfire. Lots of it.
I know that there's at least a dozen buildings that have been set on fire. Most of those are total losses, and I can tell you that I personally heard about 150 shots fired.
Outcry from a community angry over a grand jury's decision not to indict Officer Darren Wilson in the shooting of unarmed teenager Michael Brown. St. Louis County Prosecutor Robert McCullough stressing the panel of 7 men and 5 women, 9 white, 3 black, are the only ones who have examined all the evidence.
They met on 25 separate days in the last 3 months, heard more than 70 hours of testimony from about 60 witnesses.
Witnesses and evidence, he says, indicate Brown scuffled with Officer Wilson as Wilson tried to get out of his patrol car, his gun unholstered, discharged twice. Among the documents released, these pictures of Wilson's injuries after the shooting. President Obama spoke from the White House after the announcement.
To those in Ferguson, there are ways of channeling your concerns constructively, and there are ways of channeling your concerns destructively. Michael Brown's parents understand what it means to be constructive. The vast majority of peaceful protesters, they understand it as well.
But the others swarmed the streets, torching buildings, destroying businesses.
Our community's got to take some responsibility for what happened tonight. As far as tearing our community apart.
Dealing another heavy blow to a community battered by 3 months of turmoil. The Brown family's statement asked not just for peaceful protests, but also their hope to campaign for a body camera on every police officer that patrols the streets nationwide. I'm Jennifer Bjorklund, live in Ferguson, Missouri. Now back to you.
Jennifer, thanks. We'll be talking with her throughout the morning. Obviously a lot going on there.
And as she said, nationwide people have strong opinions about the grand jury's decision not to indict Officer Wilson. A Knoxville man who protested in Ferguson after Brown's death says he's disappointed but not surprised by the decision.
He was visibly upset by the news. This is what Andre Canty had to say after hearing the grand jury's decision.
I was shocked, but I'm not shocked. You know, like it hurts, but I'm not shocked at all.
Canty is very involved within the Knoxville community. He works for the Highlander Research and Education Center and is president of the 100 Black Men of Greater Knoxville. Last month, Canty, along with a group of UT students, traveled to Ferguson to protest the shooting of Brown. He says despite the violence, there was a lot of faith there. Canty now says the questions what to tell his 5-year-old nephew.
As a black male, he has to go outside and think every day, how can I convince society that I'm not a menace in order to feel safe? And I have to have that conversation with my nephew and my unborn kids, you know? I'm like, you know, it's not right.
Canty says he hopes people who are upset will use their energy positively and make a moment into a movement. According to the Ferguson National Response Network's Tumblr page, today protesters will meet at the John J. Duncan Federal Building at 4:30 and march to Market Square at 5 p.m. You can find out more about the grand jury's decision on WBIR.com. We have a special Ferguson page there with all the latest news and reaction.
Of course, we'll continue to update you on the story throughout the morning here on WBIR. It's now time for us to get a check of the forecast. It's 5:05 and Matt joining us this morning. A little cooler this morning than yesterday's balmy temperatures.
Balmy.
I think I was out in the weather porch and almost had to loosen my collar a little bit yesterday.
Parched out there. You needed some water.
Man, I was. It was one of those days where give me some Gatorade or something to kind of rehydrate myself. But today, not really as much of the case. You head outside, some areas seeing a little bit cooler temperatures and cooler. Making words up here.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
A little bit cooler temperatures.
Yeah. I'm rubbing off on you.
Hey, out there right now, how about a few clouds over East Tennessee, over the Smokies, and the clouds, obviously those areas seeing warmer conditions, warmer temperatures, and a warmer start for your Tuesday. Off toward the west near the plateau, we have temperatures a little bit cooler in the 30s to mid-30s, and some locations as you approach Kentucky. So we definitely have some chilly temperatures out there and some warmer temperatures as you approach the Smoky Mountains. But the good news for us is pretty much everybody will see warmer temperatures for today as a few of the clouds break hopefully in the eastern Tennessee area and provide us mostly cloudy to partly cloudy skies, kind of depending on where you're at around the viewing area. And temperatures in the mid-50s for a high. We're going to call it 56 degrees for the high. Overnight tonight, though, we should be dropping into the 30s again. A little bit of light patchy fog forming in certain areas. And there are chances of rain and precip in the forecast. And I say precip because it could be kind of, it's a little bit dicey right now. Might see a little bit of a wintry mix, it looks like Thursday morning, and maybe a few flurries as well.
Todd talked about it a little bit yesterday on the 4th, so that'll be interesting to keep an eye on.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Well, moving on to local news this morning. A young child is dead and a family displaced after a late night fire in East Knoxville.
Yeah, Knoxville Fire Department responded to a house fire on Skyland Drive around midnight. 10 News reporter Katie Roach is live there this morning with details. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning, Russell and Moira. We have some sad news to report out here in East Knoxville this morning. The Knoxville Fire Department confirms to us that a 23-month-old child died in this fire on Skyline Drive last night. That house is just beyond the tree line right there behind me. Of course, that fire started around 11:45 last night, and by about 1:30 this morning, firefighters had all of those flames out. But of course, fire crews have been here throughout the night, making sure no hot spots do pop up. Firefighters say 6 people lived here in all. There were 3 kids and 3 adults. The 2 other children are 4 and 5 years old. They were taken to UT Medical Center to be treated for smoke inhalation, along with one of the female adults. The Knoxville Fire Department's DJ Corcoran says firefighters arrived to find massive flames shooting through the house and clouds of smoke in the air.
Our firefighters went to work battling the fire, and then at the same time trying to knock the fire down enough to be able to get inside. At one point, there was the fire attack was a defensive attack, meaning that the flames were such that we weren't able to aggressively go inside. So that was hard for our firefighters when we know that there's somebody inside.
Officials are not yet releasing the names of the people who lived in this house, and as of right now, the cause of this fire is still under investigation. We will keep you updated with more information as we get it, guys.
Katie, thank you very much. We know you'll keep us updated.
All right, on to more news this morning. Former Tennessee Vol and current Kansas City Chief Eric Berry may have lymphoma. Doctors found a mass in his chest, and there are concerns it may be cancerous. The announcement was made late Monday. Now, right now, this is a report from doctors. Specialists are expected to examine him at Emory University in Atlanta. We spoke with teammate Nick Rivez, now a coach at Carson Newman. He says he heard the news from his father and now is offering his prayers and his support to the matter diagnosis.
That he's going to fight it, and he's confident in the doctors and all that. That's important, but most importantly, he's confident that God's in control of this thing, and ultimately, that's the truth. Is that it makes you realize too, this life is very fragile.
In a statement, he says he was in shock when he received that diagnosis, but now he'll have to concentrate on a new opponent. He adds, "I believe that I am in God's hands, and I have great peace in that. I will be back." Berry played for the Vols from 2007 until 2009. His twin brothers are current Vols.
Of course, prayers and best wishes for him. More national headlines are coming up after the break. Please stay with us.
For today, look for conditions to be not too bad, much less windy than it was yesterday. Temperature-wise, well, we're going to top out in the mid-50s. How about 56 degrees this afternoon, just below the average and where we should be this time of year, which is 57 degrees, by the way. But notice those winds, kind of a cool breeze out of the west between 2 and 7 miles per hour. Now, overnight tonight, we'll see kind of a little bit of clearing of clouds and 36 degrees for your overnight low, just a few stars overhead and down the 7-day stretch. A chance for some flurries on Thursday morning.
And now, 10 News Today continues.
Welcome back. Your time is about 5:13, and if you're stepping out of the door for today, do not expect, and I repeat this, do not expect the same conditions you felt yesterday. Not going to be nearly as warm on the way out the door for most of us, but out there yesterday. Let's talk about that. How about 70 degrees for the high yesterday? The record all the way back to 1900 and standing there for quite some time at 74 degrees. So we didn't see any rainfall yesterday. We did see the warm temperatures, and the warm temperatures, I hate to say it, are out the door and departing the area. So for today, a touch cooler. We'll go back to more of the average, which is around 57 for today. So we'll be around 56 degrees for today's high. Skywatch 10 radar, very quiet this morning. So again, great news if you have the day off, if you plan on getting out of town a little bit early and kind of beating that initial rush of traveling. Temperatures a little bit cool though. So we're talking low 30s, low 40s right now into mid 30s off toward the west near the plateau. And then you head up toward Kentucky, even seeing some areas in the mid-20s. So just one of those things to keep in the back of your mind as you plan to do any kind of traveling for today. Really not going to see any weather off toward the west for heading down 40. But again, a few clouds off toward the east and maybe a few showers as well along the east coast for today, depending on where you're going. Futurecast for today for this area will keep things for the most part partly cloudy to mostly cloudy. Today's high, again, not going to be anywhere close to yesterday. We'll call it mid-50s, but still it's hard to complain with that because you know what? That is average, and later on in the week, we're not going to have those average temperatures. For tonight, look for clouds to kind of push into the area, but really no moisture. That should be held off to the east coast. May see a few snow flurries in the higher elevation of the Smokies. Not expecting much for tonight heading into tomorrow, though. Overnight lows for tonight into tomorrow, well, in the 30s to maybe even low 30s off toward the west near the plateau, once again with less cloud cover. So just kind of keeping an idea of how much rainfall is expected as we approach the next few days. Well, it's kind of dropped off there, but we're looking at a little bit of rainfall over the Smokies, and really as you head more toward the west, less rainfall because that system moving up the east coast. So for today, 56 degrees. For tomorrow, a 30% chance for a little bit of rain and maybe a few scattered showers after dinner tomorrow night. And then you head toward Thursday morning and things get a little bit interesting. We may see a few snow flurries. We may see a little wintry mix. The primary locations that I'm watching right now are higher elevations, the mountains like Smoky Mountains, also Kentucky and the Plateau. Not as big of a concern for me right now at this point in time. The Valley, maybe a flurry or two. The Plateau, maybe a few more flurries, so maybe 3 or 4 flurries. And then you head toward Kentucky, and that's where I'm kind of expecting to see a little more kind of flurry and wintry mix, and especially in the higher elevations of the mountains as well. So maybe a little accumulation up there, actually.
Oh.
All right.
Pretty in the mountains.
It is.
Don't want it on the roads here with everybody trying to get home.
Exactly, but if you're heading to the Thanksgiving house or the holiday house or the grandparents in the mountains, may not be a bad way to spend Thanksgiving.
That's right.
All right.
So,
thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
Well, the head of the Phoenix Hospital at the center of the Veterans Administration scandal was removed from her position. Phoenix Director Sharon Hellman was placed on administrative leave in May and terminated yesterday. Evidence of abuse, falsified records, and improper practices at the Phoenix VA hospital brought attention to practices at other facilities across the nation. Some critics are applauding the removal of Hellman, but demands are in place for more wide-ranging personnel moves to give veterans the health care services they need. The VA says it has fired more than 500 employees at 77 facilities since incoming Secretary Bob McDonald was appointed at the end of July.
Wow, a lot going on this morning for sure. Under pressure from President Obama, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel submitted his resignation. It comes as the White House had concerns about its effectiveness and broader criticism from outside about the administration's Middle East crisis management. Yesterday, the president said Hagel was an exemplary defense secretary who skillfully managed a drawdown in Afghanistan and a leaner fiscal environment for armed forces. He added that Hagel offered frank advice privately in the Oval Office, something the president will always be grateful for. Hagel will stay on the job until a new defense secretary is confirmed.
Well, bringing another child into the home can sometimes be a tricky situation. Coming up after the break, I talked to Abby Ham to see how she keeps her young boy Owen occupied while she's attending to a newborn.
And more details on the investigation of UT men's basketball coach Donnie Tyndall's time at Southern Miss as one of his top assistants resigns. That's coming up in sports.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Emma Jade. We're backstage at the Today Show right now. We've got co-executive producer of the Today Show, Tom Mazzarelli, with us right now. Obviously, the big story is Ferguson. What are you hearing from crews out there? Because you guys are loaded. I mean, there's a ton of people out there for you.
Yeah, we flooded the zone out there. We had a number of crews, number of correspondents. They're working all night. They're working all day yesterday, knowing this was coming. It's a violent scene. There's no way around it. I mean, buildings are on fire. Cars are on fire. Our folks have some security with them. They know the proper precautions. We knew it was coming. That's the bonus.
Right.
So we were in position for that. But there's no way around it. Shots are being fired. It's a dangerous situation. But they're in the middle of it, and that's what we do.
And you're going to hear from those correspondents today on the Today Show. It's the top story. So if you want more, use that hashtag Backstage Today.
All right, that was Emma Jade. We'll be checking in with her all morning long.
Well, as many of you know, Abby Ham has been away on maternity leave, spending time with her new baby Hatcher and, of course, her toddler Owen.
All right, with all the attention a new baby needs, parents know it's important to find ways to keep the other children entertained while you're busy.
That's right. I sat down with Abby for a few tips. Okay, so Abby, you've gone from having one child to having now a newborn and a toddler.
Yes.
How's that been?
Well, it's been interesting. The whole concept of sleeping when the newborn sleeps is pretty hard to come by these days. We've had some basics in our house that we've created for him that have really helped with the process. So we don't just sit him in front of the TV. One is the craft table. And this thing has been the source of hours of enjoyment. I mean, he has a little spot for his artwork, a spot for all of his markers and crayons and scissors and paints, and then we bought him a stamp kit. I mean, the opportunities are endless, and they sit back here and they create something they're proud of and hang it on the refrigerator afterwards.
Awesome. And then one of our family favorites, Lego.
Oh boy. And Legos are such a great tool too to learn to build and to create new things. And my son, you can see, has created his own little town. This little table is just a kid craft table we got for fairly cheap online, and it's the Lego on one side and a train table on the other. And this thing, boy, he spends hours upon hours at this table just creating different things, building, and as you can see, he has money and various things on the table that he's created his own little town. Next on the list, puzzles. Moira, puzzles are so good because they learn so much from putting one together. We've got big floor puzzles. We've got some that just show matches, just various little activities that they can use to learn and also to occupy their time while you're attending to a newborn.
It all looks fun to me. I want to play with Lego and puzzles. Fun to me.
That was perfect. All right.
Some good advice there, Russell. All right, time to check the forecast now with Matt. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. I love the Legos. That's great.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about today in the forecast. If you are traveling, probably not a bad idea to get in the road early, especially if you're heading to the northeast for today, or for the holidays. So today, probably a better idea because what you're seeing right now as far as delays wise, likely going to be different later on today. We're going to see probably a few more delays popping up as we have a few storm systems to talk about. So cold front draped across the east coast at the moment, and what's going to happen is provide quite a bit of moisture. Atlanta, probably some connection issues potentially there depending on how that cold front moves through today and how those storms ride in from the Gulf of Mexico. Have a close eye on that. Also near the Great Lakes, a few snow showers up that direction. Then you talk about Montana, North Dakota, a few snow showers as well. So here's a look at the futurecast over the nation for today. You can kind of get an idea that we're going to see some rain showers kind of push up the east coast, develop. It looks like a nice little winter storm for the northeast, affecting them Wednesday night heading into Thursday. Could dump half a foot of snowfall in the northeast if you're heading that direction. As far as the north central plains, likely going to see snowfall as well as you head toward Minneapolis, Minnesota, North Dakota, also Montana, and even Michigan, parts of that area. So snowfall and rain accumulations over the next few days. Well, it looks like we're going to see most of the precip hold to the northeast and also northwest as well as the southeast part of the United States. So snow showers for Billings, also for Boise and Salt Lake City. And we have a look at your local forecast coming up in here in a few minutes. But for now, we're going to toss it over to 10 Sports News Director Nick Carboni.
Good morning. Our partners at GoVols247.com are reporting that yesterday's resignation of Tennessee men's basketball assistant Adam Howard is linked to the NCAA investigation into Donnie Tyndall and his time at Southern Miss. Howard has been with Tyndall since 2009 at Morehead State, where Tyndall was also slapped with an NCAA violation. Howard followed Tyndall to Southern Miss. Both spent the last 2 seasons there. The NCAA is looking into the possibility that players at Southern Miss who were academically ineligible still received impermissible benefits, such as tuition money money while not on scholarship. I sat down with Wes Rucker of GoVols247.com and asked, will Athletic Director Dave Hart's patience run thin with his new head coach?
You certainly don't want to embarrass yourself in the process, and that's what Tennessee's, you could say, run the risk of, or you could say has already done to a certain degree, because this is someone who had NCAA baggage from his time in Morehead State. So you can say that you vetted the Southern Miss time, you can say all of these things, and they're probably true. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that, but that doesn't explain why you still had recent NCAA issues and then you hired someone who had them in his past as well. It's a tough thing to explain to people, so I can imagine there being some resentment there. I can imagine there being some hurt feelings there, and I can imagine this not ending well. I don't want to assume that, but it's certainly possible.
You can see that entire sit down with Wes on our website, WBIR.com/sports. We've probably heard by now about the unfortunate health situation with former Vol Eric Berry. Kansas City Chief Safety is in Atlanta undergoing further evaluation to see if a mass in his chest found over the weekend is lymphoma, a form of cancer. Berry has since taken a leave from the NFL.
We know it's going to work out for Eric. He's a beast, and right now he needs to be a beast, and he'll attack this along with Dr. Flowers, and you know, I think it'll be very positive result when it's all said and done.
And many are hoping the same. Meanwhile, Butch Jones and the Vols prepping for their final game at Vandy on Saturday. Bowl berth on the line. Big because it's a rivalry, and big for mid-state recruiting as well. That's where guys like Jalen Hurd and Derek Barnett come from.
Well, you look at the mid-state in general, it's one of the most rising population bases in the country. There's great high school coaches throughout the entire state of Tennessee. There's great football players. We want individuals that understand what it takes to represent the University of Tennessee.
All right, back to the hardwood. Fourth-ranked Lady Vols hosting Tennessee State last night. Izzy Harrison still out with a sprained knee. Lady Vols struggling early, and the Tigers take advantage. That is Fulton's own Jada Johnson back in town with a bucket. Tennessee trails by 8. They take the lead there. Ariel Massengale with triple. Lady Vols, though, 3 of 16 from beyond the arc. Nia Moore, meanwhile, continuing her hot streak. The putback, she had 25. Lady Vols, though, out-rebounded with the Tigers, but they had 21 steals, forced 38 turnovers. Bashara Graves right there gets it to Alexa Middleton. Freshman puts it in. Lady Vols 4-0, a 97-46 victory. That's sports. Have a great day.